What's up, Simple Youth Pastor family? It's Dylan here. We've got a special guest with us today. We've got Dr. Trey Jones here with us from Healthy Growing Multiplying Churches. Pastor Trey, Dr. Trey, tell us a little bit. Yeah. Trey, tell us a little bit about what you do.
So we do two things at HGM. We help pastors of established churches in the area of church revitalization with leadership systems, models, pastoral skills, marriage and family. But really what we want to talk about is we help church planters. We work with people who feel called to plant a church. We provide coaching, training, funding, and we just walk with them on that church planting journey. As a church planter myself, it can be lonely. And but the good news is guys don't have to plant alone. And so that's really what's so exciting is watching God just use church planters to birth something new.
Absolutely. So in the context of youth ministry,
right.
Something I've heard you talk about, something we've talked about before, is that youth pastors actually make some of the best church planters.
Oh, 100%. I mean, student pastors, in my opinion, the best potential planters out there are guys who are student pastors, because you have to learn how to do more with less. Typically in youth ministry, you're in a situation where you have to recruit and build a team. You have to lead that team. You have to be focused on evangelism and discipleship simultaneously. You have to learn so many of the ins and outs of just ministry. You have to be creative. You have to think how to be innovative and how to get the most out of things. But really why I think it's youth pastors, student pastors make the best church planters is, let's say someone's been a student pastor for 10 years. Okay, well, now the people that the generation they're trying to reach to help them plant this church is the same generation of the people they were a youth pastor to. And so they already know the language. They already know how to communicate. They already know how to connect with that generation. And I just think for a lot of student pastors, church planting is a very real and doable option.
Absolutely. And I think for so many youth pastors, there's some folks who feel like a lifelong calling to youth or discipleship ministries, but a lot of us, we know youth is a part of this season we're in right now, but eventually would like to be a senior pastor, church planter, like you're talking about. But for a lot of them, they come up in youth ministry, they spend 10 years, 12 years, however long it might be, in youth ministry. Right. And then when it comes time to take that jump or take that next step, a lot of them have a lot of fear when it comes around pioneering something new again. Even though they've done it once with building a youth ministry, kind of having that entrepreneurial spirit, there's a lot of fear or concern about the practicality of that next step. What would you say to those guys?
Yeah, I would say, well, first of all, anything that God calls us to, it's going to be a risk. Mm-hmm. I mean, saying yes to a call to ministry leadership is saying yes to risk. There's always a risk. But I think there are some things that you can do as a youth and student pastor that really help make that transition from student ministry into church planting a lot easier. One, you already have relationships, right? You're already on staff at a church, so more than likely you've already got a solid mother church opportunity right there. You've already got relationships with people who may want to sow and fund the vision that God's given you. So that's a positive. There may even be young adults who at one time were a part of your youth ministry who are still in a phase of life where, they're not locked down to a certain geography and may be willing to say, you know what, I'll move there and help you plant the church. But something else practical that youth pastors and student pastors could do, because listen, I don't think most guys are concerned about what it looks like post-launch, right? When we're doing services every week, and because we're conditioned to that. The part that's the most scary is how do we get from 0 to maybe 50, 60, 70 people on a launch team so then we can launch. That's the scary part. So I would encourage a student pastor to, while you're still on staff at XYZ church leading the student ministry, start a small group. But start a small group of Bible study and put a rule on yourself. And the rule is this: you're starting a Bible study, but nobody from the church can come to it. So then that forces you to get out in the community, get in coffee shops, to build relationships with people. And so work on those skills before you launch and plant. Develop that while you're still developing your preaching skills, your leadership skills, your visioneering skills in student ministry. And that will also help us get just more focused on unchurched and dechurched people, because the longer we stay in a churched environment where most of the people we interact with and deal with are church people all the time, and it's this nice little safe bubble, it's easy to become detached from unchurched and dechurched people. So that would be to me, that's what can be done. Keep building relationships, build strategic relationships. If there's a city you feel like God may be putting on your heart, visiting that city, but man, use that time, build a small group, a Bible study, but nobody from church can come to it.
Sure.
And keep your heart connected with unchurched and dechurched people.
I love what you just said there, because I really believe if we're faithful with what God has entrusted us in this season, and he's put it on your heart to plant a church, to go out to a new city, to take new ground, he's going to make a way for you. But also you might be surprised at how what you've stewarded well as a youth pastor can be a blessing to you as a church planter or senior pastor.
100%. In 2015, now Hope and I, we never were student pastors. We came straight from our master's program at Regent University. We moved to Georgia and planted a church. We just knew student ministry wasn't part of our makeup. But boy, if it had been, there would have been so many more built-in advantages if we had that as a launching pad. So in 2015, our student pastors at the church in Macon, they were learning, they were growing, they were developing. We started noticing this sense of, okay, does God have something more for us? The nest starts to get rustled a little bit. And we talked about, well, do you want to go pastor an established church? And they could have done that extremely well. Or do you want to go and plant? And it took them about 2 years to work through some of the anxiety of, oh my goodness, we don't know if we want to plant a church. But they're so glad that they said yes, because they had a launch pad of a local church that was sending them out. There was even people that moved from Macon to Nebraska with them. Some of those young adults who had been part of their youth ministry and are still part of the team today. But they just went for it. And man, when they launched with a team of 100 people. And that was 10 years ago. And today it's a church of over 1,000 people. And now they've planted churches out of that church, because they leveraged the fact that, yes, we could go take an established church, but the most effective way of reaching lost people in America, it's still true that the data still bears it out, is by the planting of new churches. So if we're serious about reaching lost people, then we need to get serious about church planting.
For sure. I love how we've kind of laid out today what makes youth pastors great church planters.
Yep.
We've addressed some of their anxieties, and we've given them some practical things to do to prepare.
Yeah.
But let's say there's someone watching this right now. They're a youth pastor. It's in their heart to plant a church. Yeah. They're hearing about this. They're meeting you. They're hearing from me about HGM. What are some next steps they could take in potentially partnering with HGM to plant a church?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I would just say, if there's some student pastors who just want to learn more about the process, we have an intensive coming up May 14, 15, 16 in Holly Springs, North Carolina, which is a suburb of Raleigh. They can go to plantachurch.us. All the information's there. They can register there for that. And we've had a lot of student pastors come who just said, I'm not coming to sign up to plant a church, but I at least want to know a little bit more of the nuts and bolts behind it. And it's been really helpful to them. Actually, some have said, if I plant a church, it won't be now. But man, what I learned there is actually helping me in my youth ministry.
Yeah.
So that's one thing they can do. But go to plantachurch.us. On the homepage, there's a free assessment. Take that assessment. The results will come to me. Then I can send them the results back to them. We can have a conversation. And man, HGM, we would be honored. Listen, man, church, the success that church planners have, that's really our honor. I mean, that's what it's all about. And we would love to walk on that journey, because I just really believe, man, that every community needs more new expressions of Jesus.
Absolutely.
And that's really what church planting is.
Absolutely.
Oh, we also have a webinar coming up Friday, Thursday, the 27th of March. Go to Plant a Church, send us a line. We can shoot you the link for that, where we'll just be getting more in the weeds of what is church planting and why is it so important.
Sure. So you've heard Pastor Trey today. Thank you for being with us, first of all.
Thank you.
But if you're watching this video and you're either thinking, I know that the Lord's placed it on my heart to plant a church, or, hey, maybe that's something that I could sense the Lord asking of me later down the line, and you just want to learn more, head to plantachurch.us. You'll be able to find information about all of these events, and we hope to see you there at one of those events coming up soon.